go.
Hello.
Wait a second. No, sorry.
Wait, well, what are you doing then?
Go ahead. You're good.
Are we on?
I think so.
Okay. I don't know what I'm doing. Hey guys, this is Natural Progressive. Desperately struggling to figure out where my guest is. So in the meantime, we just me and Oz are gonna talk and we'll explain who we've got coming on if he we talked yesterday. So uh pretty sure he hasn't forgot that it's earlier over there, you know, in Australia. Oh, he's here. Oh my gosh, thank goodness. Yay. Okay, so with me today, I have a really exciting guest. It's Guy Lane. He is an author and environmental
Yeah.
researcher. He's done some really great work. I'm super excited. He has some great ideas, some amazing thoughts. I wish I had more time to research, but I really didn't. But I think I got a good gist of who you are, guys. So why don't you say hi?
Hey, how you going there?
We had so much stress.
I'm sorry. I thought I had this thing absolutely nailed down to the moment, but it turns out that I'm out by an hour.
Oh, oops.
But here I am. I'm here now, right? So, and
Yeah,
that's
that's all that matters. We've only
yeah.
been promoting it for, I don't know, 14 hours or
It,
so.
it's fashionable to be late.
Yes, that's what I always say. I don't think I've had one live stream so far start on time. So you're not alone. It's okay. But this is the first one I started without the guest on first. So maybe a little bit nervous.
Yeah.
So how's the weather out there in Australia?
Look, it's beautiful. You get good weather in Queensland. It's sunny most of the year. I've had a bit of a storm last night, so we had the first rain for a while. It's been very dry. Um, Brisbane, the city that I live in, is hasn't copped a lot of the bad weather that
Mhm.
the rest of Australia's had. It's been hot, but it's not been heat wave hot. But we got some rain last night, so that was nice.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I mean, we've had a little bit of weird weather out here, so but I'm glad you're not really drowsy anymore. Um, I was listening to your interview on the way home with Jennifer Hines.
Yes.
That was a great interview. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed that. She's a sweetie. I don't know her personally. I've just been listening to her talk to various people, and it. You know, I want to know what brought you into this. Like, what was your moment where you? I know you said it during her interview, but
Yeah.
would you talk about that?
So I have an expression that I use. I talk about ecophony.
Mhm.
Ecophony being that's a portmanteau of two words of ecological and epiphany. It's like an
Mhm.
awakening to the environment. And so I had my first ecophany when I was about 23 years old, working in the oil industry. Um, I was on the deck of an oil ship off the coast of Taiwan. This is back, I mean, this is like 30 something years ago. And the sea was choked with plastic bags. We're 10 miles off the coast. And I just remember looking at that and just seeing those plastic bags in the ocean, sort of tied in a whole bunch of other things that I've been participating in that industry. And that was really, I think, the first moment when I realized that there was something going on. There was some um, flaw in the Cato plan. There was something about humans and the planet didn't play well together. And that was really the first awakening, I guess. But then I just kept having them as time went on, and I keep having them still. I still, even now today, where I think I've got a pretty mature understanding about the nature of the planet, I still periodically have these sort of moments of like, wow, you just get like
Mhm.
uh, deeper insights.
Where you get like heart sick. I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
about you, but I get heart sick. My moment, I mean, I've always felt that way, but my moment when I really it sunk in was when I started a job 4 years ago driving throughout 4 states, you know, mostly rural areas. And I started seeing what the destruction of the mining was doing around Wyoming and northern Utah. And it was disgusting. You know, year by year, I'd go by there 3 times a year. And every time I went by there, it was worse and worse. There were blasting areas that were just beautiful landscapes. And now they're gone forever. And to me, that just made me heartsick. And then I started researching what they were doing with the mining, and it just snowballed from there.
Yeah. And I was watching your video, your piece to camera the other day from inside your car where you're talking about the Green New Deal. And I really had this a moment of empathizing with you because I can really feel your pain because
Thank you, because it is painful. It's very
yeah,
painful.
you are feeling this thing. And the other thing that's interesting, you mentioned Jennifer Hines. Jennifer Hines was the first person I think that I'd really come across who is doing what you and I are doing, which is using these modern social media platforms to try and share, trying to get the message out, trying to help people understand. And so when I saw her doing her work, and then I started to find other people.
We gravitate towards each other. You're going to be interviewing
yeah,
Miss Sandy tomorrow at
yeah,
Environmental Coffee House. But yeah, we're all this big group now. Like,
yeah. And I sort of I found myself a little bit in there. It's like, wow, I want to, I have a calling to do this as well. So
I
that's
feel
why.
that way. Yeah,
Yeah,
me too.
yeah. So here we are. Exciting. It's sad.
Yeah,
Exciting.
it is very sad. The
And
happy part is it's bringing people together in one way.
and I'm driven in a way by this concept of enlightenment. So the idea of the Buddha sitting under the Bodhi tree after years of searching and then gaining enlightenment. The word enlightenment means to understand how things really are.
Yes, that's why
all the
Buddhism
bullshit.
is what I relate to the most. So
Yeah. And so for me, whilst this is really hard, emotionally upsetting, that's why I'm in it, because I just want to. I put my hand up to be brave to understand how things really are. And that's really why I'm in this thing. And I've always looked for the biggest thing there is, and there's nothing bigger than the extinction of the human race.
No, there absolutely isn't. It's a scary, scary thing. And that kind of
Yeah.
brings me into wanting to ask about the religion.
Yeah. Period. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that came out from it was in August 2016, and the Pope came out with that thing they called the encyclical, which is Laudato Si, which is basically a paper that the Popes write. It's like a teaching, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it got in all the news about how the Pope was getting on board climate change, and it was a really big thing. I mean, it
Oh yeah,
dominated
I remember.
for a little while, yeah. And so I thought, great, Catholic Church is going to get this thing fixed. They're going to stop tampering with children for a while. That's a great thing, and they're going to jump on board and fix climate change. So I went and to go and find that document. Well, I found a document on a web page on the Vatican website where there were 10 other encyclicals. So it wasn't this one thing, it was just a whole bunch of them. And then there was a link on the side of the page to the previous popes and all of their encyclicals. And what you realize is this encyclical is not actually a particularly big thing. It's just another document that the Vatican knocks out. And then the next time I saw the Pope on the TV, he was beatifying somebody, turning somebody into a priest. And I thought, this is a crock of shit. This is not going to go anywhere. So what?
Well, when you idolize other people instead of the planet, that's what you end up with. And your religion, okay, this is just my understanding.
So let me say, so what I then thought was, if the Catholic Church is not going, if we can't have an established religion start being, honoring the planet or being devoted to the planet, then we're going to have to create a new one. And so I wrote a blog post that said we need a religion devoted to Gaia, which was the best I had at the time. And as I thought that through over the last 2 years, I've been amending it and tweaking it and actually looking at what a religion is. According to the Australian Taxation Office, it's a belief in a supernatural and the canons of conduct that give effect to the belief. That's all it is. It doesn't have to have a God. So once you take the God thing out of it, it actually becomes a lot more palatable.
Yeah, for me especially, I've always felt like what people call God or whatever is nature. I mean, what created us was some natural phenomenon and we are all connected. I don't see humans above animals like most humans do. We're just part of this whole um, ecosystem that we've totally messed up. We somehow went out of it and messed it up like really
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I really love the honoring the planet part instead of a god, because
Yeah.
if that's what people really honored, we may have taken care of it better.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. And look, the central, so in a religion needs a supernatural. And
mhm.
so I started thinking about Gaia, but Gaia doesn't fit that because Gaia is it's a scientific theory. So it's actually kind of based on facts, you know, the idea that the planet has the characteristics of a living organism. So what it is, I shifted one step away from that and said, rather than saying that the planet has the characteristics of a living organism, the planet is a living organism.
Well, it
So,
is.
and
It
so then
really is.
if the planet is a single living organism, then it
Mhm.
needs a species name, right? Which is
Uh-huh.
taxonomic classification. So I went through that process and I came up with the name Imperium Vitae Planeta, which is a Latin, which is the species names are a two-part Latin name. And Imperium Vitae Planeta loosely translates to um, uh, um, the empire of the living planet.
Oh,
And so that's what the name means, the empire of the living planet. And so Imperium is the short version of that, and it's from the word Imperium that the name Perium comes from, which is the name of the religion. Now, if you see that all the living things on the planet and the ocean, the atmosphere, and the soil are basically component elements of a single living organism, then it means that you and I are cells in that organism.
mhm.
And what happens when you see yourself as a cell in a superorganism is it changes the way that you think about pollution. And so when
Yeah,
you see a piece of plastic lying in the gutter, it's no longer an abstract, it's a part of your body.
right. And it's polluting you. It's
Yes. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
it is anyway. I mean, I
Yeah.
see it that way anyway.
Yeah.
Most
Exactly.
people don't, but a lot of people aren't as close to nature, or, I'm only comfortable when I'm in nature. Other than that, I'm like trying to live in my brain and gathering information. When I'm happy and free is when I'm in nature.
Yeah.
When I'm camping and I don't have to think about a cell phone or anything, that's where I'm happy. But that is going away, and I'm terrified about that going away.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
uh, I can't do that. Okay, let's move on to Time to Wake. And I
Time to
didn't
wait.
get as
Yes.
much, I didn't get into as much information on that. I'm sorry, I crammed, but I'm always cramming for interviews. So I'm
You're
sorry if I
forgiven.
don't know as much
You're
about
forgiven.
what you do, but it, at least the title's super intriguing. And tell me more about that book.
Yeah, so I've been writing short stories since about 17. I've been writing fiction novels since I don't know what age it was, but since 2006. And last year I attended a market stall, and where I was selling these. So this is the little religious icons out of religion.
Uh-huh. That was on your forehead for that video. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
it's
fun.
really freaky.
I
Yes,
enjoyed that. It was funny.
no, it was funny. Terrible production quality. Anyway, so I did this market stall trying to sell people these because this is called a quen. It's the symbol of religion Earth, and the three symbols represent the planet,
Uh-huh.
the living, the living part of the planet, and the humans. And so
Uh-huh.
they intersect, but you see that the bottom part is missing because the relationship between the humans and the living planet is incomplete. So that's
Yeah.
the symbolism. So I went to this market to try and sell these things to people, and and have these conversations. And what I realized was it sort of really dawned on me that my understanding of this stuff, I've been working on this for 20 years, is very mature. And when you compare it to the public who don't really have an understanding of even the broadest, simplest concepts. And so I came away from that thinking I need to have a different thing to sell at the markets. And I thought, all right, I'm going to tell my story in a book. And what I did was I bought a book called How to Go Viral by Joe Romm, who's a climate scientist, which
Mhm.
talks about how to write, to go viral. And so I read that book, and then I used the concepts in that book to shape the first of my non-fiction pieces, What Comes Next. And so I drew that up in a week, and then it took about 3 or 4 weeks to produce it. But I made it a short book because I wanted it to be easy to read. So it takes 2 hours to read. And so that basically condensed my sort of 20 years of learning about the state of the planet and the relationship with humans. And then the idea was to then continue writing, adding in all the contemporary ideas and all the newest things that are going on the planet in this series of short books. And Time to Wake was the sequel, if you like, of the first of the series that came after.
Okay, what was the first of the series? Is that the
Time to Wake, climate? No, sorry. What comes
What
next?
Comes Next? That was
Yeah.
the first one in the series.
The
I'm
first one.
sorry. I wish I could read more, but I
So
work
that's-
a full-time job and then I do this, and
Yeah,
I find
I'm-
out everything by listening to it while I'm driving. So
I'm a bit vague about it too.
all right. Okay, so you did What Comes Next before Time to Wake.
Yeah, what comes next? Yeah, and so, and what I did in there was I sort of outlined the big picture, and so let me explain one piece of the big picture, and this ties a little bit into Perium. There are scientists. So there's this concept that of a class 5 planet. So an astrophysicist says that if you actually use the contemporary understanding of there's probably hundreds of trillions of civilizations in the universe. And most of them probably go extinct because they probably all go through the same pathway as we do, of becoming a civilization and overreaching and destroying the environment.
Yeah, I've heard that the theory. Yeah.
So he said that if the civilizations that survive are the civilizations that join into a partnership with nature, and he calls that a class 5 planet. And there is another expression, a scientific expression called Gaia 2.0, which is where humans and the natural living environment, where humans basically partner with the environment, which is, for example, I'll give you an example of how that works. So if you look at most of the surface of our planet is ocean, and most of that ocean is actually a largely lifeless desert. Basically, there's clear water, there's no nutrient there, there's almost no plankton. Well, if humans but a few hundred meters below the sea level, there's actually a lot of nutrient in there. So if humans were to go into these places and put a big drinking straw, like a straw down there, a pump, and start moving the water from 200-300 meters down up to the surface, we'd bring nutrient to the surface. There'd be a big bloom of plankton, and we'd bring the ocean alive. Now, in that manner, humans are partnering with the natural biological systems on the planet and improving the biosphere. If we
there's that whale that does that goes down and brings the nutrients up. Like
the sperm whales, they go they collect animals from there, they eat them, and then when they poo, they do it on the surface, and in so doing, they bring iron, which is really important, to the surface, and the iron kicks off the phytoplankton, and the phytoplankton pulls the carbon out of the atmosphere and produces the oxygen, helps to stabilize the climate.
Right. It's too bad they're dying, but
so when humans start to partner with these natural systems, we can actually make this place even better than it was when we arrived.
Do you think we can do that?
Well, technically we can do it, and there's plenty of money to do it. But the problem is that we've got deranged,
no political will. There's
deranged psychopaths running the world. I use that word quite deliberately. Deranged. Look at Trump. I mean, the guy's absolutely no empathy for humans whatsoever.
No, he should be in the dictionary as deranged psychopath. That should be the definition. Have a picture of him. Seriously. But then Hillary Clinton's not much better. I mean, what the hell?
The political class is full of people like that. So yes, we can do it, and yes, we've got the resources and the technology, but no, we're not doing it, and that's why the planet's dying.
I don't have much faith that that's ever going to happen. I just don't.
Well, it is happening. Let me show you another one of my my little religion Earth people. I got a clear one here that I was trying to mount an LED into it. Hang on, I got it here. I'll explain a little concept that relates to that. Here it is. Right, this one here. So this is another piece of religion Earth iconography. So this is basically, this is called an entrope. And so it's got these two component pieces. So what I was looking for was like a yin-yang symbol. What this represents is, on one hand, we've got collapse. This is the collapse of the biosphere, the collapse of the, the ecosystems. And over here, we've got this transition that is taking place where we're transitioning into a sustainable society. So you can see that in the development of renewable energy, all these clean technologies. We've got ways to get rid of plastics. I know a guy who's got an incredible plan to basically produce oil. You don't need to pump oil. You can grow oil out of algae. This guy's developed all of this technology for that. So on one hand, the whole system is collapsing, and on the other hand, the humans are getting really busy adapting and finding new ways out of it. And so, but what's happening is that we've actually got these two things happening simultaneously. Collapse and transition is happening simultaneously, and this is where we are in the world right now. And that's the nature of that symbol. And so the question is whether the collapse is faster than the transition. And right now, the collapse is much faster than the transition.
Right. And then not only that, there's the issue of population that I'm sorry I have to bring in there. And no one likes to talk about it.
There's too many humans. There's too many humans, even if we're living at a low ecological footprint. I mean, theoretically, you could have more humans if all the humans had a much lower environmental footprint. So this goes back to the work of Paul Ehrlich in the population bomb. He had an equation, IPAT, I equals impact. IPAT, I-P-A-T, I equals P times A times T. So environmental impact equals population multiplied by technology. So whether you've got clean technology or bad technology, multiplied by affluence, which is how much resources people have got. So population is not the only thing. It's one of the three things in that equation. But there's 8 billion people. It's heavily overloaded.
Yeah, he was saying, Paul Ehrlich was saying that 1.5 billion was pretty much the sustainable level, and now we're at 7.5 billion, moving up.
Yeah. So I think the idea was that 1.5 billion was assuming that we lived at the material consumption levels of Western people. 1.5 billion Western people is all the planet can take, but maybe 10 billion Buddhists would be
right. Okay, so you could probably, so people don't understand, and this is what I have a really hard time trying to communicate to other people. When I'm on other channels, they immediately just bristle up at the population issue. And I try to explain to them that we're, especially the Western countries, we consume way too much. And then we come up with these green deals that just ask you to consume more, and that's going to get us out of it. And they're really just feeding capitalism and growing more, which is only going to make it worse. Here, buy an electric car. That'll solve everything. Buy this, buy a new refrigerator that's energy efficient, buy a new, buy this, buy that. And that's not going to save us. Recycling can't even save us because they're not recycling anything. So I'm like pulling my hair out, staying up all night, tossing and turning, trying to figure out how to solve this problem. I really am, because I'm compassionate. I love people. I have kids, not that I intended to have kids. I have to explain this every time. I have 3 kids. It's not my fault. Well, it is kind of my fault, but I asked when I was 22, my doctor to tie my tubes because you're 20, you have hormones and crap. Okay. I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm human, but birth control all 3 times pregnant. And my doctor wouldn't fix me. He said, "Oh, have your husband get a vasectomy." I didn't have that choice, but my freaking husband could. That's just so wrong. And that's part of something that's wrong with society, is that women don't have a choice over their own reproduction, and you gave them a choice. Like half of the births are unintended.
I heard you made that point, and I absolutely fundamentally agree with that point. If you were simply to have that, this then becomes advocacy for abortion and family planning. If people only had the children that were absolutely planned for, then the population would go down dramatically.
And you'd have fewer starving children and homeless children, or orphans.
And let me make one point as well. So in Parian religion, it's very clearly stated that women should have full control over fertility, and it is something that men should just get their bloody hands on.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that.
And one of I don't know. it's on the website. I don't know whether I still got the photograph, so I had it up and I might have taken it down. But I don't know if you know this, but the very first thing that Trump did when he came into power, surrounded by a whole bunch of old white men,
Trying to
was
shut down Planned Parenthood. I know that.
no, he shut down a thing called the Mexico City Agreement. Okay, so this was apparently I'm not a huge follower of American politics, but apparently when the Republicans come in, the first thing they do is they basically shut off American government funding for family planning in developing countries.
Why do they want people to have babies?
That's the first thing he did, and that was his first executive order. Within days of coming in, he signed that. And basically what he's then done is he's just ruined the lives of hundreds of thousands of young women in developing countries who now can't access family planning.
Trust me, it's a lot harder to get an education and a job when you have a baby. It's a lot harder. It keeps women repressed, and maybe that's their whole point of it.
I think so. I think it's the patriarchy. And just one other thing, you mentioned that you lay awake at night trying to figure out how to fix this thing. What you're doing is easier. So in Imperium, there is a concept called Imperium. There's two concepts called Earthity, living with Earthity. And so living with Earthity is basically being a good citizen and, not consuming, too much, and recycling where you can recycle. And if you produce carbon, you carbon off, being what a normal environmentalist does is living with Earthity. But there's another concept called Perium Mission, and Perium Mission is your Perium mission. What is it you do that is specific to you to help make the planet, a better place? And this is modeling on the idea. Everything in Perium is based around the idea that we're cells in a body. So all cells have a common feature, a common aspect. So they all exchange gases, they all exchange nutrients, And so that's the living with Earthity. We should all be doing that. But cells have also got specialist roles. There are cells that produce hair, and there are cells that produce, proteins. And so the Perium Mission is, what is it that you do in your life is your personal individual contribution to making it better. And what I see you doing and doing extremely well is helping to raise an army of empaths who care about the planet by talking, having these conversations, and being brave and putting yourself out there. So you're doing it.
That was really hard to do. I started just videotaping what I seen, like empty reservoirs and mountains that were just bombed and destroyed for mining. That's what I started out doing. And it just all built up inside. And I had to talk to somebody. And I live in Utah. Okay, Utah it's kind of in the middle. It's next to Colorado, kind of by Jennifer Hines. So right next door. Yeah, it's a really, really very conservative place. They believe in having as many babies as you can pop out. They believe in just taking everything you can out of the earth and profiting off of it. They're trying to bring more people here, even though we grew 26% last year. And we're the second driest state in the country. We have we have no water for more people. They're trying to bribe businesses to come here, big businesses that use tons of water, and they're just driving mining. And so that's why I had to speak out. And actually it's very therapeutic to find people like you and Sandy and even Sam Mitchell. Oh my gosh, she's people that I'm like, oh my God, there's other people like me. I'm not the only one. It's like amazing to have those connections and build those networks. And Kevin from Black Bear News, if you don't know who he is, you need to watch him. Like everybody knows everybody in these circles. It's just crazy.
Yeah. And I in What Comes Next, I actually honor these people. I refer to this cadre of people in these books that I'm writing, because where else are this conversation being had? It's not in the mainstream media.
Oh no.
It definitely shows up a lot in, I don't know if there's a name for it, but the sort of Salon and these sort of more non-mainstream media sources. So they cover it quite a lot. But one of the places where this information is very, very abundant and available is through the social media, for so long as we have got the social media is free.
Yeah, as long as they don't mess that up, and
Yeah,
hopefully
yeah, yeah,
that neutrality stays intact. I'm
mm,
hoping
yeah, yeah.
for
And the
now.
algorithms that are tweaked by human beings will simply
Oh
say,
yeah.
well, these people are just not welcome on, the platform, or that, if you talk about this stuff, we're just gonna, shadow ban you or lower
Oh
rank
yeah.
search engine.
I've had that happen a lot, but I'm a little bit more under the radar because I am a smaller channel than some people are. So I think if we just keep bombarding them with smaller channels, getting this information out, maybe we can get it out,
Yeah,
and just and I encourage everybody who even has a thought to do it. I have social anxiety from hell. This was so hard for me to do, but
mm,
it feels so good once you can do it. And we need as many voices as possible, as
yeah,
many small voices to build up, the ones that are under the radar that can just get the information out and spread it. So
yeah, absolutely,
that's how
absolutely.
I feel about it. I don't know.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Ah, well,
yeah.
awesome. It's like almost a quarter to. Do you want to take questions? I
Oh,
think
hey, whatever. Let's go. Questions.
we're live. Oz, where are you? I got Oz behind the curtain. You know,
Oh,
Can you hear me?
I can
I
hear
can.
you.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
You are Oz, and I am in Oz.
Yes. Yes.
How can we have Rhonda Walker on the screen?
Um,
Oh,
that's just one of my incarnations. So sorry. Yeah,
She's not
I'm looking
here.
for questions. I don't see any questions yet. As soon as they pop up, I'll fire them at you.
Are
so
people
who is
on
Oz?
the
Is
chat?
is this Oz like the guy in the movie Behind the Curtain where you can't actually
Yeah.
see him? The little dog goes, grabs the curtain and then he becomes visible or something.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like the
that's
Wizard
me.
of
That's me.
Oz.
Yeah,
That's him. Yep.
I'm the
I
I'm
have my
the
very own Oz. Can you
I'm
believe
the
it?
newbie version. So yeah.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Is no one on there? Because we always have someone on live. Maybe it's really
No, yeah,
early for
we've got a question from Going South. They want to know
oh, yeah.
when they will die. When will I die? Going South says.
I think sometime between now and 100 years, but I can't be more specific than that.
Okay.
It's hard to tell, huh? You just don't know. But when the ice is gone, you know it's super close.
I
Hi.
think
Hi. Gosh, what's your name? Going South. I know your name, but I'm not.
Vidal. I think his name is Vidal.
It's Torstein. That's what it is. Hi, Torstein. That's Going South.
Yes.
He has a really cool channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, Oz. Who else? Who else is there? At
Human
least
says Liberty University is making religious lawyers and is choice for presidential candidates to speak. So I don't know what that one is, but that's just a comment. I don't see a question
Human.
yet.
I'm that. Well, who's here? Tell me who's here.
Well,
I can't see. I don't have it up.
yeah, I'm sorry I didn't share it out. Book Hermit's here.
Hi, my favorite critic.
Robin Data. Chris is here. Going South here. Trev B5. Chris
Oh,
Foster.
hi, Trev B5.
Yeah, World Coming Down.
Oh, Chris Foster.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, we have quite a few people.
Yes. Yay. Joe D.
Is Osama here?
I don't see Osama.
Is Osama there?
Independent Outsider. Valhalla.
Oh, hi, Dave.
Yep. Robin Data. Let me see. Yeah, that's
Robin.
pretty much everybody. Oswald Spengler.
Oh, hi.
Yeah.
Hi, Oswald. Awesome. A lot of the regulars. That's cool. It's such a fun community. I'm sorry. It just is. So is there anything you want to make sure people know? Maybe your books. I know you have some fiction books that are trying to draw people into climate change that wouldn't normally be.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I want to do. I want to share I've had I go into these sort of obsessive, bingy kind of research phases. Mm-hmm. I'm sort of just coming to the tail end of one that I've been on for about 2 weeks. So what I've been doing in the last couple of weeks is I've been trying to fuse the whole sustainability agenda with combat lightsabers.
Oh.
Okay. So what I want to do, because we're on Zoom and it's got this amazing technology, can I just share a piece of my screen with you just for a minute to show you a piece of video footage? and then
I'm
you'll
okay. Oz, can you
Okay.
make sure
No,
you
Yeah,
can
I
do
think
that?
I think I can make it work. I'll let
No,
you
no,
know.
I can do it. I can do it this end. So you just stand by. I've just got to
Go
bring up
ahead.
this page. So let me go here, perium.org. Now just stand by. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Perium website. Okay, so stand by and just tell me if I've actually done this correctly. So I've got to go to share, stand by, and I'm going to share the screen. Share, stand by, and then right. Can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the Perium website.
Ooh, I like the worlds in the eyes. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Okay. Good. You saw that straight away. So this is the website for Perium, the new religion, right? So basically, here I'll just walk you through it very quickly. But here we've got Imperium Vitae Planeta. So this is the taxonomic classification for the organism that is our living planet. Okay. So here's a little explanation of Imperium and where the concept came from. There is a photograph of Imperium. So this is a photograph from a satellite called the Discover satellite, also sometimes referred to as the Al Gore satellite because he lobbied for the funding to produce it. And basically, this satellite is it's got a big camera on it, and the satellite is parked in a place called L1. And if you know your astro stuff, L1 is a Lagrangian point 1, which is about a little bit over 1 million kilometers from Earth. And it's a place that sits between Earth and the sun. And in that place, the gravitational force of the Earth is balanced out with the gravitational force of the sun. So if you park a satellite there, you don't need to use fuel to keep it in place. It just sits there. And so this satellite is just sitting there. It's got big solar panels to power it, and it's got a camera, and it just takes this constant stream of photographs of planet Earth and then beams them down. So this photograph of planet Earth, you can see down here, it's got the date. That was photographed on the 13th. So what's that, a couple of days ago. So basically, every couple of days, they update a brand new photograph of planet Earth. And up here, it's got natural color. So stand by, refreshes the page. So this is what the planet actually looks like if you are floating past 1 million kilometers away. So that is a photograph of the planet. And then you can basically, and obviously it's spinning, right? And remember the camera is on the satellite, and it tracks where so it's always got the sunlight side of the Earth. And basically they just take this constant stream of photographs. So you can actually see what the planet looks like. And you can, like, for example, if I just go back, move this panel here, so right here, you can actually see weather events. So that's a cyclone, which is currently raging.
Does it show the one that just hit Denver yesterday?
Well,
bomb cyclone?
You can see the Bombogenesis one, yeah. Let's go and have a look. Well, okay, so so Denver's up here, so you're not going to see it so clearly, but yeah, because this is looking at sort of the horizon. The equator. Anyway, but the point is
Denver's right. Oh, I can't. You can't see where I'm pointing. Like it's right there.
No, it's up in there somewhere. It's in that big band.
Yeah.
So basically, so this is what she looks like. This is what Imperium Vitae Planeta looks like. This is what the living organism floating around in space looks like, and this camera allows you to go and see what it looks like, and then you have these insights. I mean, just go back to this photograph here of Africa. You know, look at that vast tract of effectively desert. Most of this planet is either land desert or ocean desert. There's very little actual abundant life on this planet in the first place.
But there's an ecosystem inside deserts, even though they look kind of dead. There's insects and
absolutely, but there's a very, 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 very small amount of biomass. And so the reason I say that is not to denigrate it and say, oh, it's just a desert, is to say that there is only a very small amount of life on this planet in the first place. And if you look you can't see it, maybe you can, I don't know, but the atmosphere itself is only really goes up to about 100 kilometers by one measure. I mean, there's other measures of it, but once you get to about 100 kilometers, there's so little air up there that it's practically nowhere. And if you look at the planet, which is 12,500 kilometers across, that the atmosphere represents less than 1% of the diameter of the planet. So so the actual biosphere, Vitae Imperium Vitae Planeta, the actual living organism that sits on top of this planet, is very, very thin. It's analogous to the dust on a ball, playing pool, the dust that you put on the ball, or you put the dust on the cue, right? But what I'm saying is that it's like if you go into the forest and you see a rock and it's got lichen over the top of it. That's what life is on this planet. It's like a thin smear. It's incredibly delicate. And then remember also that it's floating around in the vastness of space. It's possibly the only place in the galaxy which has life. It's almost certainly the only place in the solar system that's got life. And so this whole business about life on Earth, it has to be understood in that when you if you go into a forest, particularly if you're around big trees, you're like, oh, you're overwhelmed by how massive it is. But when you come 1 billion kilometers away from Earth and you look at the planet, you realize it is this terribly thin veil that exists on the surface of this planet. And so what I've been trying to do in my life is to understand these things, figure out how to communicate them. And more recently, I've been trying to figure out a way to get people to look and to stop. So this is the concept of advertising. And so let me just go and do I want to go and show you the lightsaber. So stand by for a minute. I'm going to go here. So what I've done.
Your show.
Yeah.
Well, it's my show, but.
Well, the other thing, you did ask. So what I've observed as well is that environmentalists are typically pacifists. And what we need, and we can't all be doves, we've got to have some hawks. So I've created this thing called Perium Saber Force. And the idea of Perium Saber Force, hang on a minute. This is actually yesterday's work, so I haven't uploaded the links yet, so stand by.
It's all good.
Yeah, no, now I can't see the damn thing because there's okay. Here. Here. So LIGHTFATER. Like that. Okay, so I just want to show you this little piece of video. So this is a handbook that I wrote. So you can buy this as an ebook, and it's the ebook on custom lightsabers. And I want to show you a couple of people using now lightsabers go back to the Star Wars movies, of course, Luke Saber and Luke Skywalker and all that.
I'm
but
familiar.
you actually now buy a lightsaber. It's got a tough polycarbonate blade and a very bright LEDs in the handle. And so when you turn it on, it's got the noises and it's got the light. So here's a couple of people doing some combat. I'll show you. Can you see that? Okay, you can see this on the web. I won't go through it all. I just want to show you one other thing. Okay, and so this is a lightsaber academy. That's where it all started 44 years ago. And this is where it is today.
Most people at this point have their own sabers for at-home practice and outside class sparring. They are built to be combat durable. They're made from aircraft-grade aluminum with a polycarbonate blade. It has enough give that it doesn't hurt, but it's sturdy enough that it's not going to break.
Definitely do get a lot of exercise out of it. It's a lot of moving, it's a lot of dancing around, similar to like boxing.
Okay, that's great. Fantastic technology. So I've been going into this world over the last 2 weeks. I've written a handbook on everything that I've found. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to fuse lightsabers, those combat lightsabers, into the conversation about sustainability. And one of the things that's really clear to me is that we are going into collapse, and there's going to be more and more people coming into the environmental movement, and there is no martial discipline in the environmental movement. And when we start going and demanding things from governments and going into the streets and they bring the riot police out, the environmental movement does not have a martial discipline we don't have a police force of our own.
No.
And so one thing that happens with environmental protests often is you get these rat bags that turn up and start rioting, and they screw up the entire political statement. And so Perium Saber Force, which is the concept that I've been putting together, is basically an idea of the environmental movement creating its own disciplined security force to protect itself from bad from bad people. Like you've got the sheep and the wolves, and then this is the sheepdog. And so the way and the pathway into that is through the lightsaber combat, because lightsaber combat is a way that people can develop martial art disciplines and skills and dueling. So you create that mental discipline of actually going into combat or into, going into a fight rather than running away from it. But it's a way of doing that without using standard normal weapons. And so all of the things that you learn through lightsaber combat, you would then apply in the heat of the moment. And so that's a little project that I've been working on. And so the way I see it is,
so they're the ones. Okay, let me just make sure I understand what you're saying. There are people that will keep in line the people that are trying to make the protests and all that violent.
Yeah.
Is that what that's for?
Yeah. Or they'll just basically, like at the moment, when you get environmentalists go and protest, okay, so later today, I'm going to be a marshal at a school strike. Okay, so there's hundreds of kids striking from school, demanding action from climate. I'm going to be there wearing a yellow vest, and my job is just to look out for them. Yeah.
Yeah, we have that tomorrow. There's a big one tomorrow.
Yeah, great. So on the 15th of April in the UK is the beginning of the Extinction Rebellion. Where thousands of people
Here too.
are going to close down the capital city in the UK.
Nice.
Okay? They don't have a protective force. So here you've got hundreds of pacifists who are now going to go and stand in front of people with batons and helmets and pepper spray. Okay. And so what I'm saying
what's going to keep them from getting arrested for just having a weapon of some variety?
Well, it's not a weapon. I'm not saying that they necessarily take a lightsaber with them.
Okay, good.
I'm saying that they use the lightsabers to train to develop the martial discipline.
I get it. Okay.
And so the idea of it being a lightsaber as opposed to any other thing is that when you show a lightsaber, everybody runs towards it. And so one of the commentators was saying that he teaches lightsaber combat, but he also teaches all these other sword disciplines. And when he shows a normal saber or a Japanese samurai sword to somebody, the first thing they do is they go, "Oh, that's dangerous." He says, but when he brings the lightsaber out, everybody comes towards him and wants to put their hands on it, and they want to engage.
I would think it would be fun.
So that's where the lightsabers come in. And then what happens now is that being environmental now is actually cool because you get to play with lightsabers, right?
I like that.
So, and what I'm working on at the moment is I've actually got 2 lightsabers coming in from China. They should be here within the week. So I'm going to start putting out some video and start to build up this discipline. But what I'm working on as well, and what I really need is a benefactor who can help bankroll this. I want to create a lightsaber called the Perium Aqua Saber. Basically a waterproof version, so we can actually start doing the combat duels in the heavy rain, which we're going to get because we fucked the climate, and also do it in the surf. So we can start doing training sessions in the swimming pools with the lightsabers.
Oh, that would be kind of fun. Great exercise too, by the way.
Absolutely, yeah.
And cooler if you're in the water when it's really hot.
You're not going to sweat, are you? Yeah.
No.
Exactly. The whole planet is dying. And everything needs to be turned towards fixing it. Everything. So lightsabers, where do lightsabers fit in to saving the planet? Where does anything fit into saving?
Oh, we got some questions coming up. I have one too. Are you okay? Do you have plenty of time, or are you in
I've got heaps of time. I can sit all day.
Okay, awesome. Go ahead, Oz, and then I'll have another question for you too.
Okay, I've got 2 questions prevalent right here. One of them, the first one's from Book Hermit. Does Guy really think people are going to change how they live significantly? Book Hermit says, I see the future more like what's currently happening in Venezuela, coming to more nations soon.
Yeah, I think, I think yes to both. Okay. So yes, people are going to continue to live their lifestyles until they get washed away. And yes, there's going to be a lot more Venezuela, I think. And some people are going to change their lifestyles, and I go back to this little symbol that represents the simultaneous existence of the collapse and the transition. Okay. And so but the big question is, what proportion of the people continue to live that lifestyle that is destructive versus what proportion of the people that actually start to make the changes? And when one person actually flips, when they get this thing and they start to become part of the solution, they do a lot more good than the harm that they ever did. And so what I talk about in the books is in what comes next is that we don't need everybody to become an environmentalist or to learn how to, be a Perium Saber Force, or you don't need everybody to flip. You only need around about 15 to 20% of the public to really get passionate about this thing and do everything in their power. That's all that you need to flip. You're not going to have everybody in the UK come out into London to shut down the streets, but if you get that 5 or 10,000 or whatever the number is, that's all you need. So
I heard it was 1%. You need 1% of the population to get out there and protest. If you just have that, then that would make a major difference.
And what Roger Hallam says, and so Roger Hallam is the founder or one of the co-founders of Extinction Rebellion. He says that whilst you might need, say, 10,000 people in the streets, you only need 500 people to get arrested. Okay, and so Extinction
Right.
Rebellion is all about getting arrested. Okay, because when people get arrested,
They make
everybody
the news.
well, it's a number of things. Firstly, that it gets on the news. Secondly, everyone in their family gets radicalized because they go, "Oh my God, I can't believe that Joe's gone to jail."
Oh yeah.
And thirdly, what happens is whatever this gripe is, it highlights the distinction between the people and the government. Okay, so whilst the climate change issue is largely about commerce and big business and fossil fuels, as soon as people start getting arrested for protesting against climate change, it becomes the people against the government, and the people overwhelm the government because the people basically comprise the government. So yeah, we don't need everybody on board, but we do need a lot more than we've got now.
Oh, for sure. But we need a lot of people to wake up. I know in my state, nobody believes climate change is a thing. Like really, almost literally, nobody here believes it's a thing. So that makes it really difficult. People have to realize there's an issue before they do anything about it. And the population thing, forget that. You can't even convince them. They want to pop out as many babies as possible, which is really sad because those children, what is their life going to be like if it keeps going and going like this? And then the other thing I wanted to get your opinion on, nobody, when they're talking about climate change issues, is bringing up the military, which is the #1 polluter on the planet, the US military. And no one is addressing that at all. I don't hear anybody saying anything about that. And I would really, really, really like people to start talking about that.
Yeah. Look, I agree completely. And I follow, my father worked with nuclear bombers when he was in his 20s. He worked with the British Royal Air Force in the UK in Strategic Bomber Command, or Bomber Command it's called. He worked with Victor bombers, and these planes were designed specifically to drop nuclear weapons on Russia. And he was an airframe fitter, and so he used to crawl around inside these planes when they actually had the bombs on board, and the bomb that they had was a 400 kiloton thermonuclear weapon, which is about 30 times bigger or more powerful than the bomb that destroyed Hiroshima. So I grew up with that. I grew up with the idea of the military, but specifically that with the nuclear part of it. And militaries are incredibly damaging, as you say. Not only are they the biggest polluter, but if you actually look at the environmental impacts of war, I mean, just for one example, the ongoing contamination of Vietnam as a result of the Agent Orange.
Oh yeah, we're still seeing effects of that.
Yeah,
still.
and depleted uranium, which is they take from the nuclear power industry when they take the rods out of nuclear power stations, when they've stopped being so busy to make energy. They then use that uranium and they put it into basically big bullets. So the A-10 fires depleted uranium rounds. And the reason they use it because it's very dense. It's more dense than lead, so it's got more hitting force, and they use it for shooting tanks. And in large parts of Iraq, they're basically just contaminated with uranium because of the use. So war is incredibly damaging. And part of my work, and part of what I write down, and part of this thinking about, this idea of when the humans get their act together to start working in balance with nature, and part of what Perium is about trying to have humans become emotionally mature, not individual. Well, yes, individually, but also as a civilization. So we don't have an emotionally mature civilization. We're like,
which we do right now. We do.
Yeah.
Incredibly materialistic, not connected to the planet, the earth, the other species. They think they're above them.
Exactly. Yeah. And war and the environmental impact of war is a huge part of that. And so you're absolutely right. And so in a way, so if we're going to start talking about the environmental footprint of the military, we need to sort of have a broader conversation about the maturity of our civilization and where war fits into it.
Oh yeah, we're just trying to be bigger and badder. The U.S. is sticking their nose in everybody else's business, but it's really not about that. They just want the natural resources. So they'll go overthrow a government just to bring the resources back here and pollute the planet even more. So,
and you say the United States, right? Which is true.
Yes.
But what you're really talking about is your political and economic elite in your
yes, the elite. Yes.
So it's the elites that are causing the problem. And which is what's really exciting.
All the elite, all the politicians and all the wealthy billionaires.
Right. It's the model that they operate on is that you get the way that you express your being an elite is you just hyper greedy, and you just try to take everything, and you don't care about the environmental consequences, and
You're a psychopath.
Psychopath. Exactly.
Because if you have all that, there's all these people suffering.
Yeah, it's psychopathy.
There's something psychopathic about that. It's just plain and simple.
That is all it is. And so that's sort of at the heart. And every time as I drill down into trying to understand what's going on this planet, I always come down to power. It's the people who have power are deranged psychopaths on this planet, and that's why everything's going wrong. And at some point, we've got to figure out how to get those bastards out of power and to put wise empaths into power, and then we'll be able to stay on this planet for the long future, which is the next couple of billion years.
That's the thing we got to figure out.
and so what, in saying that, what we've done is we've actually we've outlined the outer edge of the problem and got a broad sense of what the solution is. The solution as in how would you describe the solution, not necessarily how the hell are you actually going to do that, because that's the second question that comes, but you've got to know what the nature of the problem is. And so for most of my time looking at climate change, I've been thinking that the problem of climate change is that solar panels weren't cheap enough. Right? Well, solar panels are now cheaper than all of the other forms of fossil fuel, but we've still got fossil fuels because of the political power. The problem is power. We've got to get rid of the elite. And who's going to get rid of the elite? Well, you just draw on it. Like, go and listen to Roger Hallam talking from the Extinction Rebellion. So he was on RT the other day talking to Chris Hedges. That's an excellent interview. And he says,
I'll have to watch that.
People have got to go into the street, and they've got to be brave, and they've got to risk getting hurt. And environmentalists don't have a martial discipline. They don't have a discipline that says, I know how to go into a place where I might get hurt, which is where Perium Saber Force comes in, which is ironically and crazily where the lightsabers come into this conversation.
Right. I'm not afraid of getting hurt. I'm afraid of losing my job. Which I might do anyway, doing this. Oh, we got another question.
Yeah. Chris Foster, any idea how we can maintain a social network that the corporations cannot control? Could we, for instance, make it a public utility rather than a private enterprise?
I think there's people trying to do that. And I think, yes, we need to make it classified as a utility so they can't mess with it as far as any of the major platforms on the internet. What do you think, Guy?
I think, well, yeah, I mean, we're at the mercy of the internet to have this conversation. And if there was no internet, then the only way I'd be able to have a conversation with you is either over the phone, but then it's all technology platforms, and all technology platforms are being hacked by the security forces. And so if these conversations become outlawed, then basically we can't talk electronically anymore.
So then it's snail mail.
And
even then.
Yeah. So then it comes down to the smaller communities where people are actually talking one-on-one and then periodically one person goes from one community and travels a long distance to go to another community, which is
I'd have to travel away myself.
which is how humans have communicated for most of the time of civilization anyway.
Yeah.
So, so for the time being, we're free to have these conversations. But also remember, if these, part of the elite have their wealth because of the economic commerce that is performed by everybody else, and so they can't just shut down the internet, right? Because
Right.
commerce would stop. So that they can be more sophisticated about the way that they prevent certain dialogues going on over the internet. But there's always going to be these channels open to be used somehow. But if you look in China, I mean, China is just scary with that social scorecard. So they've now basically
yeah.
database. And if you, so I was reading the other day that children who grow up in families that have got a low ranking, just not going to be able to get into school. People who try to get onto the train system, but their smart cards won't let them through the turnstile because they've been blacklisted by the government. That is seriously
That's sick
Orwellian.
and wrong. I want to just tear down civilization myself. I just think that's necessary. I think
Yeah.
the sooner that civilization is broken into pieces, and you have to live locally, and not travel, and just depend on people locally, depend on your own resources locally, grow your own food. I think the sooner we can get back to that kind of a situation, the better off we'll be, and the more free we'll be.
We should have more of that, but we also really do need this high tech, interconnected, globally interconnected system.
Oh, this is great. This is great, and actually save some. Like, I didn't have to fly to Australia to talk to you.
Yeah. So there's that, but also, so if let's hypothetically say that all of America became really green on that model, where we all just went low tech and just got involved in local communities, then we're completely vulnerable to the high tech enemy that comes in and goes, gee, this is like easy, you're going to take these people over. So that the high tech is here to stay, right? The question is, how do we adapt this world that we've got so that it actually starts to regrow the planet rather than constantly degrade it? We've got 7.8 billion people.
But I think being local is.
No, so what I'm saying is being local is a part of the solution, but it's naive to think that we can just remove all of this interconnected high techery and replace it with that rural model. We've got to have the two things together and find.
I'm not saying get rid of all the tech, but I'm saying just get a lot more local, like with your food and resources and all that. So that when one area gets destroyed because of a natural disaster, at least maybe another area still has food that's grown.
And you don't have to go to the country to do that. So I haven't seen this personally, but I've been reading about it. In Melbourne, there is a movement, Melbourne, Australia, and it's probably an international movement. And I can't remember the name of it, but basically it's where people in neighborhoods basically create little gardens of Eden.
Yeah, neighborhood gardens. I am growing food right in this room.
Yeah.
In this very room that I'm in, I am growing radishes and beets right now and squash, and I'll be starting more stuff to over the weekend. But I'm growing food in a window.
Right. Yeah. Hey, I'm going to
do that.
I'm going to move my camera and show you a little aquaponics device that I've been working on with my friend David.
Oh, cool.
So I've been I wanted to learn about aquaponics, and so I built this little system. Okay, so basically, I'm going to turn it on, so you can see that there's a little. So here is I got this little motor for $7 from Banggood, which is a Chinese online retailer. Turn it on. Basically, let's see. Right. So basically, there's a little tank with fish in it. Can you see?
Cool.
Okay. There's the inlet. So the water comes in here to the pump, and then the water goes up here, and then I'm just showing aquaponics.
Oh wow.
So
that's cool.
My pal David.
Hi, David.
I'm staying with David at the house for a little while.
He's actually looking after the house while I was away.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Nice house, by the way. Very nice.
It's 120 years old.
Yeah.
Oh.
A lot of carbon.
Wow.
It's locked up a lot of carbon. Yeah.
That's
We're going
impressive, though. No.
next week in north of Brisbane. I'm going to talk to this mayor about sustainability and zero emissions. So guys coming up to try and get some work with him and try and make this change that we need.
Oh, that's awesome.
Hey, guy, I've just been talking to the Dean of Engineering at one of the universities in New South Wales here, and he is so passionate about shaping the mindset of engineers to be able to cope with what we both agree is a coming tipping point in the behavior of the world's people. I mean, today we've got all these school children striking across the world.
Yeah.
And there'll be hundreds of thousands of them. And the guy and I are going in to marshal the Brisbane kids and make sure they're safe.
Anyway,
No
David,
kidding.
you should get David on to have an interview because David is one.
Oh yeah. Shoot me an email with his information.
Yeah. Okay, we'll fix
I'll
that.
do it.
I'll be talking with you.
Good to meet you.
All right, so that's just go back to this. So basically, what we've got in here with this little aquaponic setup. Okay. So in here we've got these little growing beads, and so basically you put your plants in there, and then the nutrient from the fish waste goes in here. The plants take the nutrient from the fish, and then they return the clean water. So basically,
That's brilliant.
this little device here is called a bell siphon. It activates basically as the water level increases, and then when it gets to a certain level, the water basically empties out into the tank, and then it starts to refill again. So what we've done here is to build this little thing to understand the physics and the biology of it, and these things scale up into very large systems for growing food very efficiently.
Oh wow. See, we need more of that stuff. We need scientists together to help fix. Well, you can't fix what we have wrong, but we can make things better at least.
Yeah, look, I take exception with the doomers who say that we're all inevitably going to perish in the coming years.
I know you're a gloomer instead of a doomer. I watched
you.
Sam Mitchell's interview with you, so yeah.
I'm a gloomer. Okay, so a gloomer is aware of what's going on, and they are gloomy because it's gloomy. It's dark. It's going to get a lot worse, and it's going to get a lot worse for a long time, decades, maybe generations. But if enough people wake up and start doing the things that we know that we should do, then we might be able to create a new civilization that weathers the storm and then comes out the other side, and then we regrow nature, and then we can live on this planet for another 2 billion years, which is what we've got ahead of us before the sun gets old and swells and dies. And if you follow Perium religion, you'll understand that there's another principle in here which says that it's possible, say, 1 million years from now, if we're still intact and have got our act together as a race, if we haven't collapsed, that we can develop environmentally benign space technology. We can find an exoplanet, and we can take Earth species to it and recreate another biosphere on an unoccupied planet that's suitable. And in this way, human beings can help the living planet to reproduce. And that's what we're here for. The reason we're here is to help a planet to escape the fact that 2 billion years from now, everything's going to burn because the sun's going to swell up. And so all of a sudden, what we've got...
If we last that long, I'm skeptical. I'm sorry. I'm kind of a doomer.
No.
I just don't see... I just don't see how either population overgrowth is going to get us, or the methane bomb won't get us, or the extreme climate events. Maybe a few people will survive, but if the temperature is too hot to be livable by that point, I don't see it. And the oceans are dying. We're losing 150 to 200 species a day. Our biodiversity is being lost, like at enormous amounts, to where we won't be able to grow food. So I'm sorry, I'm a little skeptical.
No, and rightly so. And so I'm not saying that, hey, it's okay, we got this thing in the bag, we're going to be fine.
We have a lot to do if there's even a chance. If there's even a chance, and no one's doing anything. Nobody's doing anything.
Well, not nobody's doing anything.
Well, okay, Extinction Rebellion.
Not enough.
Others. Yeah, not enough people are doing something. The elites certainly aren't doing anything. They're making it worse.
Well, not all. So some of the elite are waking to this, and so the point is to be clear on the fact that the odds are heavily stacked against us, but they're not zero. Okay, so we know that we're going into collapse. We know that we're going into climate mayhem. We know all of this stuff is coming down the pipeline. The question is, what do we do about it collectively as a whole, and how does that influence it? Paul Gilding made a really interesting point. Paul Gilding is an Australian author who writes about this stuff. He said, if you think if it's difficult for you to get your head around governments taking expedient action on climate change, he said it's even harder to get your head around them doing nothing as the planet melts down. So something is going to happen sometime soon where you start to see a lot of action taking place, and then it's going to be really exciting. And then you're going to see a groundswell of movement. Whether it's too late, whether it's fast enough to actually make a difference, I don't know, but it will happen. So in my framework, I talk about, I've got this 9-step frame to sort of explain how we can get to this happy place. And the place that we're in at the moment is what I call the quickening. Okay. So it starts with, so the quickening is basically, you can feel this quickening of pace. You can feel this tension. Every time you turn the TV on, your heart is racing because you're expecting some extreme weather event. We've got the children are now starting to become the ambassadors of the planet. You know, we're in an interesting phase now. And what comes out of the quickening is the blossoming, which is where more and more people start getting involved and start being in action. And then all of a sudden you can start to see how maybe we can fix this thing. We've got new technologies arising. We've got new political systems arising. You can start to have a sense that maybe there's a way out of this. And if you follow this, the concept of the diffusion of innovation in the blossoming, that's when many people, most people start taking expedient action. Okay, and then from there you can see how it might get better. It's going to get worse. There's no doubt about that. But it's not necessarily a fatal disease that we've got. And it's important to reiterate that point, okay, because the doomers would have it that we're all doomed. And what they then do is that they then go, so well, there's nothing we can do about it. And so
no, I'm going to fight till my last breath. Don't get me wrong. I will fight till my last breath, if for nothing else to extend what we have, because I have kids. I have 3 beautiful kids and 3 stepkids and 2 grandkids by marriage. I'm like, you know, I don't want anything to happen to them. I don't want.
But also, it's important to keep reading and researching on the parts of the equation where the solutions lie. So I always refer to this fellow's name as Peter Fikowski, and Peter Fikowski's work. He's working with this company. I think they're called Blue Planet. I think they're called. And basically, they developed this technique that basically pulls carbon out of the atmosphere and turns it into a form of limestone.
I've heard about that.
Which you can use to make road base. And road base is there's 60 billion tons a year of road base. So
and it's 4% of the pollution problem, and it's it's a huge amount.
Fikowski's program, it's called Climate Restoration. He's working with engineers and entrepreneurs to basically figure out how you would then go, pull the carbon out of the atmosphere to stabilize the climate. And so that is going on.
No, I know things like that are going on. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but Oz is giving me the time thing.
Okay. I'll stop.
I don't know if he has comments before we go, but I'm sorry. I will definitely have you on again. We've been like an hour and a half almost.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I was late after all.
Oh, yeah. But not that. Okay, so it was probably about an hour and 10.
Yeah.
So not.
Okay.
But sorry. Plus, I'm going to start coughing any minute now. I've had allergies all day. Oz, is there questions or anything?
There may be some. I'm getting more comments, but right now I can't scroll through them. It's jumping too much. But I want to say this has been a great interview, and I can't wait to have Guy back with you. You guys were great, and if everybody would check the links in the bottom for Guy, and take a look at that Patreon link so we can get a faster internet signal for the Natural Progressive.
People to give me $1 a month so I can get a faster internet connection. Luckily it didn't cut out, but you know what? I'm using my phone internet. I took it off my house internet because that's how sucky it is. My phone one's better.
Yeah, it is. But anyway, no, just I'll run the exit interview. And thanks again, Guy. And thanks for putting up with my
Hang out, don't leave. I'll
my
talk
stuff.
No, I'll stay. Look, thank you. It's really enjoyed the chat, and certainly anytime I'd be very happy to come and share my thoughts.
Thank you. You've been a great guest. Yeah, great conversation. I really appreciate you. And to all you guys, thank you who are hanging out. And we will talk to you soon with a new interview Sunday. We're going to have Deb Meyer, or Deanna Meyer, sorry. Deanna Meyer. Sunday night. So watch for that. Have a good one. Us?
1 second.
I hate that when I don't know what
RenderForce.com.
they're at.